Do you know where you were, Mum?
I suppose I went out.
What's this?
I was on the property when your grandfather inherited it. His mind wasn't there in the end.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Movie Club Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Mills, and with me is my guest,
Tyler Lee.
All right. And today we are here to talk about the 2020 movie Relic, directed by Natalie Erika James. It's her directorial feature debut. It premiered at Sundance this year. It was that world premiere, and it is distributed by IFC Midnight. Tyler, do you have any initial thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts?
Yes, I did not know this movie existed until about 5 days ago when you texted me to be on this podcast. I have been really out of the movie scene over the past year or two with work and everything. So I've been trying to get better at watching movies. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, but this year I have seen a lot of horror films. Relic is like the third one I've seen in the past month. So it's nice to dive back into that world.
And what are your initial thoughts on the movie? Did you watch a trailer? Did you watch a teaser before, or did you just go into it blind?
You know, I normally always do watch a trailer or a teaser, but for this one, I went into it completely blind. I didn't know the plot. I didn't know who was in it. Within the first 5 minutes when they were talking with an Australian accent, I was like, oh, so it's an Australian movie. I literally knew nothing before going into it. Like I said, I don't normally do that, but I was like, I'm gonna do it this time. Make this one special.
Yeah.
I guess initial thoughts, like how deep do you want to go with initial thoughts at this point? Just kind of go straight into it?
Yeah, we can just get straight into it. Like, what did you think of the directing, the writing, the acting? Just like little surface area things right now.
So I tend to really like the character study dramas and thrillers. So this one really spoke to me, basically only having 3 main characters. I really enjoy that. I tend to like movies where you have a central character on screen pretty much at all times and everything revolves around them. Who is the actress that played the lead in this movie?
The lead in this movie is the mom is Emily Mortimer.
She had a decently strong performance. I guess first of all, I will say I did like the movie. I haven't even checked anything besides like one critical review before doing this. But it's a very deceiving movie. And again, we'll get into spoilers later, but you know, it was marketed as a horror movie, and it is, if that's a good explanation. Like I said, we'll get into the reasons why later, but it starts off as one thing, and you do think it's going to go one way, but then kind of that, you know, halfway point, 3/4 point, you can definitely see where it starts to splinter into something else. And it's very tropey at first, right? I mean, it's very like, oh, it's going to be a haunted house. There's a spooky thing. And, you know, you think it's going to be like, oh, you know, some house with a clock in its walls crap. But, you know, it definitely moves away from that. What about you? What were your thoughts, at least at first, as you were going through the movie?
When I first found out about the movie, I had just heard of it. I think I read the premise of it, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. I think I read the premise. I saw the poster. I didn't look up anything else about it. And I was
trailers, no nothing.
No trailers, no nothing. I still haven't watched the trailer.
So we came in pretty much exactly the same into this.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I didn't look up any reviews or anything, which is my preferred way to go into a movie.
I don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely in the minority about doing that.
So bad at that.
But I really enjoyed it. I think that it's directed very well. I think the acting in it,
especially for a first-time director.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I was stunned.
Yeah, no, it's and like the amount of money that just seems that went into it, like the production value of this movie is so high. We'll talk about budget.
We'll talk about it later. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Well, we can talk about it now. Hold on. Let me just.
Well, I was just thinking, what was the budget of this compared to something like run of the mill is not the right phrase for this at all, but you'll know what I mean. But like a run of the mill A24 film.
I feel like A24 films, I think this is somewhere in along the lines of it. And I'm going to bring up a A24 movie to compare this to later.
Me too.
Yeah. I wonder which one.
Eighth grade.
Yeah, this is very much like eighth grade. If you really loved eighth grade, you should watch this movie.
Plot.
Yeah, exactly. It's about a little awkward girl that's in eighth grade, and it's basically just ripped off. No, I feel like this this has the same kind of budget level in like the very low millions, because these stars, although I didn't really recognize any of them, they are big names in Australia. And I think the mom was in Mary Poppins Returns. So
I'm about to watch that movie in a few weeks. That's going to be a very different experience now.
It definitely will be now, yeah. So I think that this is like a lower budget movie. I can't find the budget right now, but it seems like it's probably like no more than $15 million.
And not to sound all like pretentious here, but the average moviegoer is not going to notice that when they watch this. I mean, most people are going to be like, "This is a big budget, this is a thing, right?" They're going to be like, "Look at this Christopher Nolan style movie," or David Fincher, or what have you. Obviously, we kind of know the things to look for to know that it's not one of those. But it, like I said, 85% of people will have no idea that the budget was that low, and that's a testament to just how great the production value is to this movie.
Yeah, if everything is working, like the acting, the production value, of everything, of the set design, like I said, if everything is working together, you don't notice it. And I think that this movie uses all the money that it has, and it puts it on screen, and you can tell that it's worthwhile. It's not something that's, I don't know, it's not made in like someone's backyard. This is like a legit production.
They knew exactly where they needed to allocate that budget in certain scenes in this movie. You could definitely tell they're like, okay, that looks really good. This is definitely where that money went. That was the right decision. Right,
exactly. And the house in general, just like, I feel like the location of the house probably took up a significant amount of the budget, especially what they do with it later.
The house is the best character in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't say that in any sort of slight to the actors or actresses. It's just, again, it's a testament to and I think this is probably what we're going to get into next, the atmosphere that this movie builds literally the first shot.
Yeah. This movie has an atmosphere to me like a movie like The Witch that A24 made. I think that it's dark like the other movie that we're going to talk about. But that movie is a lot more full of dread. I think this movie is dark, and it's pretty grounded, but it's also I was expecting different genre elements. I was expecting this to be a different subgenre while I was watching this.
I did not expect it to go the way that it went whatsoever.
Right, like you were talking about like haunted house. I was expecting a different genre, subgenre, but we'll talk about that later. But do you want to say anything else about like the atmosphere or anything before we get into spoilers?
It almost feels like a new age 1980s throwback. It's very Nightmare on Elm Street with its characters. You have the young girl, you have the mom, you have, the awkward guy. It's a very kind of not really campy setup, but like it could have easily spun into like a parody film, right? Like, here's all your characters, here's the mom and daughter in the car. Oh, they don't bond very well. Spooky woman. But it takes those conventions I know. It takes those conventions within minutes and just throws it into something completely just that you're not expecting. And I really appreciated that about the movie, because during the first few minutes I was like, okay, this is going to go either this way or that way, and I really don't want it to go that way, and it went the right way, but it's still unexpected way.
Right. And that's all I've got for non-spoilers. So
pretty much, it's a very, very hard movie to talk about without spoiling.
Yeah, I'm tiptoeing right now. So now we'll get into spoilers. Tyler, what did you think about the ending?
I'm trying so hard to avoid using the pun that it made my skin crawl. Jesus. I really liked not the last shot, but the shot of the three of them. Okay, I guess before we even go into this, would you like to tell people in a very short way kind of the plot of the movie?
Yes.
The last part.
Well, I will read off of my phone what the internet says that it is, since we're already in spoilers. Okay. A woman links her mother's increasingly volatile behavior to an evil presence at their family's decaying country home. And like you said, you thought it was going to go into haunted house territory, that subgenre. When I was watching it, and like when I found out that she had gone missing, like the grandmother had gone missing, I was like, did she get abducted by aliens?
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and I was, or some kind, I thought it was either abducted by aliens or like someone was living in her house while she was gone and like killed her or something and dragged her off or something like that. I was going in a completely different direction. I liked that the direction they went a lot more than what I was thinking.
And I think this is a testament to how well this movie is made, is that two people, and Stephen and I have some similar but very different taste in movies.
Yeah.
And the fact that we took the exact same scenes and went two completely different ways, I think both of those are equally as valid. Because like when you said alien abduction, I immediately was like, that makes total sense. I can absolutely see that every step of the way.
Yeah.
And I guess haunted house, yes, but like in the very first shot of the movie, they do this scene, and I kind of want your opinion. The very first scene where it's set at Christmas time, and you see the woman walking naked, and you see the quote unquote creature raise its hand up off the chair and then disappear. Do you think that was a flashback to the very first time that she had an episode? Is that what you took that as, or how did you take that?
That's what I took that as, because that doesn't, for me, that doesn't make sense being anything else.
Right.
I never really
that's what I figured it was. Yeah. And when I saw the hand moved up, I was like, okay, so we're going the Insidious route with this. There's going to be the demon, and it's going to haunt the thing, and that's what it's going to be. And I was like, okay, haunted house. The demon's been there forever, and it's just going to haunt everybody. It's haunted. That's immediately what I thought of. And I don't know. It really didn't go that way.
Yeah.
at all.
No, it did not. Yeah. At first I thought aliens, and then I was like, okay, demons. And I was like, okay, there's like a demon inside her or whatever. And I guess it is kind of a demon or possession movie, but also not really at the same time. I know a lot of horror filmmakers love to say this, and I roll my eyes a lot of the times when this happens. They're like, oh, well, we really set out to make like a really intense family drama. And then we added the horror element. The horror element just like spoke to me, and it just had to be in there. But like for this movie, that completely makes sense. Like this at its core is a drama. And like you were alluding to this earlier, to what I'm saying right now earlier, like this is a family drama, and but there is a horror element to it, and I think that it is weaved into it like almost perfectly.
And to me, going back to what you were saying about the witch, the way that I felt watching this movie at first is like, okay, these are real people in the real world having these supernatural things happen. But upon finishing the movie, this is so hard to explain. I hope I explain this in a way that makes sense. It doesn't feel like this was a story told with real characters. This feels like a folklore tale that someone would tell someone about dementia. like it feels like someone's reading this from a storybook. You know, it's like the Hansel and Gretel. It's like, you know, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's that spook story that you tell someone, or that scary story that you tell around the campfire that someone has just made up off the top of their head. It does not feel like real people going through this by the end, because it changes so drastically from the beginning. That's at least the vibe that I got. It's very folklorish to me.
That is better than I could have said it myself. And this is very, and like in the vein of like folklore horror, like Midsummer. This definitely feels more realistic, and it does it seems like a more realistic and grounded, like you said, it seems like a story that someone would tell, like a dementia story that is like actual folklore, like folk horror. And
let's go ahead and bring the film we've been alluding to this whole time, and I'm gonna laugh. We're not thinking about the same movie, but for me, it was impossible to watch this film and not think about Hereditary.
Yeah,
because the thing for me is, with Hereditary, you are in that family. You are living with that family in that house as they go through this. In this movie, in Relic, I felt like I was an outsider watching the story.
Right.
It was completely different, and that's why I really liked Relic with its folklorish kind of setup to me. Some other people might not have gotten that vibe, but that's at least what I took away from it, especially with the dream sequences in Relic, which is something that was handled very different in Relic versus in Hereditary, which is another parallel between the two movies. I'm just going to throw this out there. My two favorite horror movies of all time are The Exorcist and Hereditary, and so those are like pretty untouchable to me. So already, no, Relic is not as good as Hereditary, but if you want something to kind of scratch that itch in a different way, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
I think that you can just remove the title Hereditary and put it on this movie, and it fits. I feel like this movie has more. I feel like they could basically switch titles, and it would be still appropriate for each movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a mother with a daughter and a grandmother, and a bunch of spooky crap's happening everywhere. Yeah. I mean, that's what the movies are.
But like dementia being a actual real thing, like this movie doesn't go beyond. When I say this movie is grounded, it doesn't go so, spoilers for Hereditary. It doesn't go beyond the normal. It doesn't have any outside of what is real and what is in this world, and something that's realistic.
There's no floating decapitated bodies in this movie.
Yes, I was that. Okay, yeah, definitely spoilers. There's no decapitated bodies. There's no occult. There's no supernatural any entity. Right. There's no demons or anything. This movie is bare bones. It is a family drama with some horror elements sprinkled in there.
I mean, if you take out the 45 seconds of scenes of a dark shadowed figure moving around in the background, and then the last 4 minutes of the movie, that's all the supernatural there is in here. And I hesitate to even use the word supernatural because it's not presented in that way. At first you think it is. You're like, oh, there it is. There's the lipstick demon from Insidious. He's going to spook you. And then it just goes, just kidding, dementia. That sentence has never been said in the history of the world, but there you go.
It hasn't, and now it's out there and recorded.
Great.
I think that you just put it so well, and I think what I said earlier about filmmakers always saying this whole, it's a family drama at its core, and the horror element was just there. It makes sense for this. I feel like they were Natalie Erika James was writing this with her co-writer, and then she was like, okay, well, it's getting too thriller. It's becoming too much of a thriller and horror, so I just got to make this whole thing horror and put this little elements in there.
I think this is a good movie for people who want to tiptoe into horror movies but don't want to take the full Ari Aster plunge.
Yeah,
or
this is yes.
I mean, it's very digestible, and it's a message that a lot of people, especially in our society now, that is very focused on dementia and finding a cure, and someone, whether it's in your family or not, who has it.
Right.
And it is a message that everyone can relate to. I mean, there might be some people out there that are like, I don't really want to have that in a horror movie, but I think it's done in a way that is not tasteless. I think it is done in a way that is very respectful of the torment that brings people.
Yeah, I like I said before, you put this better than I could have ever put it myself. Like, this is something I didn't think about. This is a great movie as an introduction to people that aren't really into horror movies. If people were like, yeah, I'm not really into the gore or anything like that, it's like this movie, along with like the Babadook, I would say, are kind of horror movies. I mean, the Babadook is more elevated in its horror with the supernatural elements and things like that.
You just dropped that phrase, elevated horror. I'm gonna leave this podcast.
it's okay. I meant it's elevated because this is grounded, so it's definitely more elevated than this.
It's funny because last year when I watched Hereditary, I think it was last year. No, it was 2018. Mm-hmm. I watched it and I was like, this is the best horror movie. I got to show everyone this movie. And I told my parents to watch it, and I called them after it was over, and they were like, why did you do that to us?
Yeah, see, this really is, it's like you said, it like if someone doesn't want to take the Ari Aster plunge into
which I highly recommend everyone doing at least once in their life, is watch Hereditary. Oh my God.
That is yeah. Oof. I would be interested to see how these two play, watching Relic first and then Hereditary like right after, like as a double feature. But anyway,
that would be a nice appetizer and then main course to scar someone for life.
Yeah. I like the effects at the end.
That's exactly what I was talking about with the budget earlier. I'm sure that's what you were imagining. It was so good.
It was so good. And how they
was that practical or was that CGI?
I want to say it was practical. But I
feel like man, if it was CGI, it was very, very well done.
It was. If it's CGI, I mean, I really have to watch the behind the scenes. But
I would love to see the behind the scenes.
But like what they did with the ending, with not only the body, with the grandmother's body, mm-hmm. but with the house, with them redressing the house and going through the house, and it's like an endless maze and can't find her way out.
Oh, that was so good. And again, that's the house, to me, the house is symbolic of the brain of someone with dementia. It's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. You can't find your way out. And can we just talk about the brilliant? This moment teetered for me. I was like, okay, this is either really good, or this is kind of dumb, because I wanted to see how the movie was going to handle it. But when the daughter finds the spot on the mother at the very end, how dementia is something that is hereditary and it is genetic.
See? Yeah.
It's so, I love that part, because I was like, oh, you did it. Like, you didn't go too far. You didn't try and jump scare someone. You didn't try and like pull the shirt away in horror. You gave just enough, and then bam, it showed the stained glass window. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. I love the ending.
And it's so sad because not only because the mom is watching her mom, like Kay, is watching her mom just be taken over by this disease.
Mm-hmm.
But then like her knowing, or maybe she doesn't know, or maybe she's not conscious of it because she's too worried and thinking about her mom at the moment, but knowing mm-hmm. that she will eventually be faced with the same problems. And then like the daughter, oh my God, I can't even imagine how she must have been feeling and how much of a hit finding that spot on Kay, her mom, and knowing that her mom is going to go through that same thing.
It's part of that, and this podcast is getting very real. It's part of that inevitable existential terror that you feel when you know a loved one has dementia. I'm fortunate enough to not have that in my family, but I've talked to friends and other people who they see a parent or a grandparent go through it, and they're just like, man, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm so scared of that happening to me. And to see it in that moment, I think was a perfect encapsulation after watching the horror of everything that just happened, knowing the cycle has a chance of repeating itself.
Yeah, man, you just put it very well.
I also want to say one more thing about the design of the, not creature, but the figure at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is both of a corpse, but it is also of an infant child in its design, the very soft head and everything, because when you have someone who has dementia, they are reverting to a childlike state. So I think it's really cool that the design of this, it was very corpse-like, but it was also, you know, she held it swaddled in blankets as she went up the stairs, just like you would a small child, brushed its hair, the hair came off, and it was this naked, just plain human figure that was both childlike and corpse-like. And it represented that kind of de-evolution, or, you know, devolving into the baby-like state that a dementia patient would be, while also showing them passing away. I thought that was extremely clever, and I loved that.
And what you just said shows just how good the directing is and how good the writing is, because you pulling all of that would not have happened if Natalie Erika James was a mediocre director. Like, I feel like this movie could have fallen into so many terrible tropes, and it could have been really bad. And like,
yeah, and I was so scared about that in the beginning, because it had immediately, I had my horror movie checklist, and I'm like, all right, desaturated colors, perfect. Blue hue to the picture, perfect. Daughter and mom who barely talk to each other, pop. Here we go. Grab the popcorn, let's do it. Nope, it didn't happen like that.
It didn't happen like that, and
I really liked it for that.
I'm very grateful that it wasn't like that. One scene that I will say that this movie is missing, speaking of when we're talking about comparing to Hereditary, it didn't have a scene where Kay, the mom, didn't yell, "You're not my mother," like Toni Collette yelled at the dinner table in Hereditary. She was like, "I am your mother." She's like, she didn't yell. She's like, "You are not my mother."
Untouchable performance by Toni Collette in that movie. But you know what's funny? It had the opposite of that scene. It had the mother going, "I'm still your mother." It had the exact opposite of it.
Yeah.
God, the parallels continue between these movies. And like, I do want to stress to people who are listening to this, the movie is graphic, but not like traditional horror graphic. I mean, there's a decomposing body at one point. There is some again, it's horror light. There's some light body horror towards the end, but nothing like, you know, Charlie's Head on the Road.
Right. Yeah, no. It's definitely more digestible than an Ari Aster movie, than its counterpart Hereditary. I think some of the effects in this will be disturbing to some people, but
absolutely,
it's like you said, it is horror light when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it is really one of those where when you finish it and you talk about it with someone, you go, I mean, it wasn't that much of a horror movie. There's no jump out and scare you scenes. There's like a couple fake out jump scare loud noise things, and that's probably my biggest complaint about the movie. Is that was a pretty consistent thing where the fake out jump scares, and I don't like it when movies do that. Sometimes it works very well, like in Alien when the cat pops out of the thing and you realize you got scared by a cat in a dang Alien movie.
Yeah,
I think that's great because it breaks that tension. But in this movie, it did get a little bit repetitive with the sudden smash cuts of like a book falling or a door closing.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, horror movies just do that, right? There's people that watch horror movies that enjoy that.
Right.
I
also wonder but it's not bad. I also wonder if the director did that intentionally to do, and there's some meaning behind it about dementia. I might be reaching here, but I mean, I think again, like you said, for a lesser movie, I think that would be reaching. For this, that is absolutely something that they could have thought about. And you may have actually changed my opinion on that. If you're right. If you're wrong, then it's still crap. But if you're right, then no, that's a nice little meta subtext that they put in there. Yeah, it's just a thought that I've had. But we'll never know whether the director did it or not. And
Well, for the next podcast, invite the director on here, and we'll interview her, and it'll be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I actually listened to an interview with the director, and she talked about how she had to change a couple things in this movie just because she watched Hereditary. Apparently, the grandmother was going to be dealing with dollhouses like she does in the movie with the. It's not like soap making; it's kind of like candle making.
Yeah, I really like the candle carving because I wonder again, and this is the first time I thought about this, is that a metaphor for everything? Because think about it, with dementia, you've built this life and it slowly fades away, but you put all of this time into it, knowing that one day it'll all be gone. She puts all this time into these candle sculptures, knowing that eventually one day they will all melt away and turn to nothing.
I think that it is very intentional, and I think that you just said the meaning behind it right now.
I love it. Yeah, if you wanted to go into this movie and figure out the meanings yourself, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, we'll have Natalie Erika James on the next episode.
Oh, you're right.
And we'll bring you back, and then we'll all talk about it together. This is just a pre-warm up. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say about the movie?
I liked it. It was very solid. I know we're about to get into like the critical everything on there, but for me, if you're a fan of horror, you'll like it. I mean, if you only like, what's those movies, Saw and Postal and Cannibal Holocaust and whatever, this might not be your thing if you like the torture porn stuff, but if you like the elevated horror, you will like this.
And do you have a rating that you want to give?
I would say somewhere in between 3.5 to 4 stars for this one. Can I do like 3.75 stars?
3.75 stars. You can if you want to. There you go.
Sure. So like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, somewhere around there.
See, I would give this movie a 8 out of 10. Just because
I can see that.
For this to be a directorial debut and it just to blow me out of the water like it did, and like with the effects and all of the meaning behind it.
If we're grading on the curve here for a directorial debut, I would give it like a 9.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I think I could definitely argue that.
And speaking of directorial debuts, Tyler, you should make sure that you watch The Vast of Night, which we just released an episode on. But
I like that plug. That was good. Very smooth.
And if you haven't listened to that episode, you should watch it, everyone that's listening right now. So right now we're going to talk about what the critics thought and what the people thought, not just the critics. So on IMDb, it currently has a 5.9, which I feel like is below average.
Obscene.
I know. I feel like it's usually an average movie on IMDb has like a 6, which is
boneheaded people. Well, I mean, isn't the highest rated movie like Shawshank Redemption like an 8.7?
Yeah.
Has that changed since like we were in high school?
Yeah, but this is like below average. It's if a movie has like a 5 point anything, it's usually, I don't know. It's usually not that good.
That is a crime.
Just wait, Tyler, because on a Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 91% critic score, which fits, but the audience score is 46%.
Oh my God. Well, Stephen, here's the thing, right? As students of video and the filmmaking process, I think we are probably more aligned with critics than the average person in this elitist podcast of yours.
Yes, this is a very elitist podcast, if you haven't noticed, in the 3 episodes where I've taken over. Very elitist now.
No, I'm just messing, but something that almost every friend that I have had has always said to me is, why are you so critical about movies? And like, I just can't help it. Cause like especially I guarantee you were not expecting me to drop this movie in the middle of this conversation. Star Wars: The Last Jedi was a movie that I know a ton of people did not like. Critics loved it, and I loved it. Another thing that was like that recently to change mediums was The Last of Us Part 2. I thought that was phenomenal. I'm not going to say any more than that. If you don't know what happened, go look it up.
Okay. Interesting. But yeah,
But I say that because I always tend to pretty much side with the quote unquote movie critic analysis of films, because that's just the way I watch movies.
yeah. And I think I don't really know how to explain that audience score. I
People
feel
are
like
dumb.
maybe they wanted people are dumb. Be like us in this elitist podcast. No, I'm kidding.
No, the director's going to be on next week to complain to her about how you didn't like a movie to her face. See if you still do it then.
I don't. Maybe it's not a typical horror movie. It's not like a Conjuring or a Lights Out. Those movies you can put into you can
I'm
put
so
those.
glad I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm so glad you mentioned Lights Out, because I meant to say this. I had this written down because I wanted to talk about this. Please tell me, Stephen, you have seen David F. Sandberg's films on YouTube.
I have, yeah, I've seen all of them.
This movie right here, Relic, is like if you took one of those, gave it a few $1 million and put it out. I got the exact same feelings from watching his, and this is a testament both to how good his online YouTube shorts are and how good this movie is, because I hate YouTube horror. YouTube horror is the schlockiest crap on the entire internet, but David F. Sandberg found a way to make it work. If you, what is his, I think it's Pony Smasher.
Yeah, it is. I was just about to plug it. I was.
If you go to his YouTube channel, Pony Smasher, and you want just some good, chunky, feel-good horror, that's a weird sentence. You should go to his YouTube channel and watch it, because it's really, really good stuff, and it's captivating, especially his behind the scenes. His behind the scenes of how he does it all is fantastic. But I really got those David F. Sandberg horror vibes from Relic, and that is a huge compliment coming from me, because I
what this movie does that see, we're about to wrap up, or now you thought we were going to wrap up, but we're not going to. Now we're going to talk about this that just came up. What this movie did for me that Lights Out didn't do. Lights Out, it like tiptoed into like the demon that was surrounding the main character and like haunting the main character. That was supposed to be a metaphor for depression and everything like that, but that movie missed the mark for me with the ending, and throughout the movie it just kind of tiptoed around what that was supposed to be and like alluded to it, but this movie just goes full in. It's just like, this is a movie, this is what our movie's about, and like
it's heavy-handed, but not in a bad way.
Right.
It's meant to be like that.
Yes.
It's very well done.
Yes, it is very well done. Lights Out is a good movie, and it's more of a popcorn movie than this is.
Guess who's never seen it?
Really? You've never seen Lights Out? Okay.
I've never seen Lights Out, but I've never seen any of his Annabelle Conjuring, Shazam, or Lights Out. I haven't seen any of it. What is he doing next, though? He announced it just a few weeks ago, I think.
Is it? Are you talking about Shaz? No, he has a bunch of. He just made a production company that is. He's announced a bunch of projects that he has in development. I don't know exactly which one he's going to direct.
I can't remember which one it is, but I feel like I read it recently. And I was like, oh, that's going to be really cool. I digress.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Movie Club podcast. Thank you all for listening. I hope that you will like, rate, subscribe. No, I'm kidding. Yeah,
God.
Like, rate, subscribe this video.
Just don't do it on IMDb, because you give it a 5.9.
Yeah, 5.9. Wow.
God, I can't get over that. Ruined my night.
Ruined your night. Wow. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Movie Club podcast. Tyler, thank you for joining me and talking about
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I love talking horror, and it's one of my favorite things.
I hope that you will be on soon if you enjoyed this, and because I would love to have you on again. This was a treat.
I would love to.
Well,
absolutely.
Great. Well, make sure that you smash that bell, and that you smash that subscribe button, and you hit that bell so you're notified the next time Tyler Lee is on a podcast of ours.
Yeah, go to the Film Club Patreon and OnlyFans and send us cash from Cash App.
Cash App, OnlyFans. Coming soon to the Production 1200 website, our OnlyFans link, and our But really, thank you all for listening. Make sure you listen to the next episode. Bye bye.
Yes, please do.
I'm here to help you, Mum.
I can see you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Make sure that you check out the other shows that we have on the Facebook, the other main podcast that comes out every other Tuesday. Make sure you leave a like, share it with your friends and your family. Go check out our YouTube where we have content from other Production 1200 works. And make sure you follow us on the Instagram. We post sometimes there. We'll do more. We'll try. Maybe. Like us on iTunes podcast, rate and review. Give us them 5 stars. And we'll see you next time.